Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Chris here from Fake Sports News, Axis Rotation, however the flip you know me on these interwebs. And today I'm going to be bringing you guys a recap of what happened at EWC in Riyadh. Yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed the intro as always. As you guys can see, I'm looking at the group stage results right now. So looking at the upper bracket, this is where we started our tournament. And of course, we kicked things off with our defending CDL world champs, Optic, taking on Five Fears, which is Exceed's team. So let's look at how that went down. Okay, here we go. So quick 3-0 from the defending world champs, who was the standout in the series, but the man of the last few months, Mr. Hook the Nuke himself. Fun fact, Hook was actually born in Saudi Arabia, so this was a home event for him. Home event cheese intensifies. So, yeah, I mean, the only player on the Five Fear side to really do exceptionally well in the KD department, and you can't even say exceptionally, it's marginally, was Exceed, the former Burger King, who is really trying to change that narrative. Now, let's look at these maps briefly. So, Hook dropped 40 on map 1, C dropped 32. And then Optic absolutely destroyed map 2. And in map 3, they ran back that belt, as I like to say. So let's go back to where we were, and then we'll check out the next match in chronological order. So, next match in chronological order was G2 versus Cloud9. That was taking place on the B stream. So let's pull that up. Yeah, as you guys can see, G2 looking like G0. They had no clearance to take off. Estriel 0.67, Kenny 0.79, Nero 0.78, and Geo 0.98. Just not going to get it done, especially when you have Gwen dropping a 1.3, Sib dropping a 1.42, and Spart, the AR duo to Sib, dropping a 1.48. I mean, it was just an absolute thrashing. Rewind map 1, it was the Gwen show. He went 23 and 10. Then Sib was right there with them, of course, and so was Spart, 26 and 15 from Sib, and 26 and 17 from Spart. Dealership went the way of Cloud9, as you guys know, since it was a 3-0. It wasn't even really that crazy of a performance from anybody on the Cloud9 side. Sib was 9 and 5, Spart was 8 and 3. It just looked like they were just the better team here. Now, in the map 3, this is where the Rokkr had their lone decent performance, of course, going to a round 5 and almost taking it to a game 4. Kenny was a standout on the Rokkr side, dropped 36 and 30. And then on the Cloud9 side, everybody did their thing. So yeah, just way more pressure on the C9 side, and that's how they got it done. So looking at our next matchup in the bracket, I guess, did we go to Group B next? Yes, we did. So we had Team Orchid taking on the Surge, and we had 100T taking on Lil Bro from LA Gentlemates. So they both ran concurrent, so we'll just go with the faster series first. So looking at the 100 Thieves side, you of course had Ghosty popping off with a 1.27. He was a standout for the Thieves. And then you had Scrap, his AR duo, with a 1.13. Then on the Gentlemate side, Free the Bulldog, you had Kismet with a 1.27, and you had his SMG duo, Johnny with a 1.05. Match MVP was Mr. Dan Ghosty himself. Map 1, Rewind HP. This was really close. I guess it was indicative of the fact that Thieves were still struggling and still reeling with the new state of the game after the month-long layover between end of season and champs. So, yeah, I guess the issues that we saw that reared their head at COD champs were metastasizing at that point, and they reached their full form at this event. So, LA Thieves 1.25 from Ghosty, Hydra 1.18, and then on the GM side, of course, Kismet the Bulldog, hashtag Free the Bulldog, 1.54. Everybody else just struggled. Then in the map 2, Dealership S&D, this went all the way down to around 11, very competitive. Gentlemates, they really, well, Kismet really fought to keep them in this. The Bulldog was 13 and 9. Hashtag Free the Bulldog once more. I will say it again. Then on the LA Thieves side, or the 100 Thieves side, excuse me, Scrap and Envoy, the dirty work duo. Envoy had a 1.5 and Scrap had a 1.22. Now on the map 3, Hacienda Control. This, of course, was a pretty close one. As you guys can see, it went down to a round 5, but the Thieves were too icy. Goes through the 1.47, and his AR duo Scrap the 1.4. If your ARs are locking down Hacienda, you're probably going to win. And then Johnny on the Gentlemates was the lone standout with a 1.19. Now, let's look at our other series, Surge versus Team Orchid. This was Hixie's team. I'm sorry, Hixie, Bance's team. So, looking at it, I mean, Surge blew him out, right? Looking at the box score, you had Nasty with a 1.34 as a standout for the Vancouver Surge. And then Neptune 1.3 right behind him, Abuza 1.23, and O4 1.13. Everybody went positive. And then Harry was the only player to go even on the Orchid side. So looking at map 1, this was an absolute blowout from the Vancouver Surge, 250 to 114. Abuza with a 1.55 and Neptune with a 1.57, and that's pretty much all she wrote. Looking at the map 2, this is, of course, where Orchid was able to get their lone map win in the series behind an uncharacteristically bad Rewind S&D from the Vancouver Surge. They're typically a team that are pretty good on Rewind S&D, so this was a bit of a shock for me. And then on the Orchid side, they just came to play. Mythics dropped 10 and 3. Definitely a standout performance from that amateur player. And then his leader, Benjamin Bance, of course, one of the oldest players in Call of Duty, one of the most storied players in Call of Duty, had a 7 and 4. Now, in the map 3, Vault Control, the Vancouver Surge retook the momentum in the series. And yeah, honestly, it was just behind a really, really strong performance from Nasty and Neptune. Of course, Nasty had a 1.47, and then Neptune was right there with him with a 1.25. Not saying anyone on the Surge did badly, but those two guys were the statistical standouts. And then on Team Orchid, Harry, of course, was the statistical standout. He had a 1.24. So he was shooting, but no one else on his team was, evidently. And that's how we got to a map 4 where the Vancouver Surge, good God almighty. Yeah, that is an ugly scoreline. Getting 100-point clubbed is tough, especially when you put up such a valiant effort in map 2. But if you look at map 1, I mean, it was 250 to 114. So a 136-point difference. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty tough. Looking at the map 4, of course, we had, oh my God, Nasty the 1.93, 29.15. Holy cow. Let's close the chapter on this book because, wow, 04 with the 1.5. Yeah, ugly. Now, let's go back to the main page. And then the next two matches that we will see were from Group C, obviously, Movistar KOI and Boston Breach. Those are the two pro teams that we're looking at there. And in my last video, I said Movistar KOI because I was not really familiar with the org outside of COD. And it's Movistar KOI, like the fish. So,
Embarrassing.
yeah, I felt like an absolute dumbass when on the broadcast they were like Movistar KOI. I was like, fuck. I definitely said Movistar KOI, like a dumbass. But anyways, as you guys can see, Group C was Boston Breach, Team War, Team Falcons, and Movistar KOI. This was one of the few groups with 3 pro teams. Shout out to the Carolina Royal Ravens for absolutely fumbling their spot. Now, you guys know I was expecting the Boston Breach and Team Falcons come out of this. So I was expecting Movistar KOI to win the first qualification match, and I was expecting Falcons to conversely win the decider match. But as you guys can see, the decision did not go the way I wanted it to, like a robbery in boxing or UFC. Now, enough speak of robbery. Let's look at a series that went the way it should have. Movistar KOI taking down really a home team in the Vegas Falcons, Saudi Arabian org playing in Riyadh. I mean, you could call that a home field advantage, right? And then looking at the series, of course, who else but the captain of this ultra team since Modern Warfare, Kleenex, dropping a 1.35, reasserting himself as one of the best players in the world. And his insight. And his duo Insight also did that with the 1.27. This was great for Kleenex and Insight. This was absolutely a legacy defining and saving tournament, in my opinion, because this year, all the talk on them has been that they were shells of their former selves and that Joe Deceives was doing way too much and that their team sucked and that they needed to be dropped. So great turnaround from these guys. On the Falcon side, Prev is the only one that could really get anything going. That's to be expected. This team was kind of a throwaway for EWC, and looks like they're going very big for next year, but more on that in the follow-up video. Now, looking at map 1, this, of course, went the way of Movistar KOI. 250 to 190. Falcons were really about one strong hill away from winning this, but when you have Pred being the only player on the Falcons that is evidently shooting back consistently, I mean, it's going to be an uphill battle. 43 and 31 for the L is supremely tough. But on the Movistar KOI side, you had Insight dropping 35 and 23, which is very uncharacteristic for Insight this year. He has been a low engagement player, but I guess he changed his play style with Abe being inserted into the roster, and it clearly paid dividends for him. Joe Deceives was right there with Insight with 35 and 28, but Insight being the kill leader, great sign for Ultra. Well, the KD leader. Looking at the red card S&D, this is pretty much what you expected Vegas to win. If they won anything in the series, they've been a very sound S&D team all year long. Even when they were all Saudi, they still won some S&D maps to the surprise of many people watching the league. So seeing them pick up TJ, the best S&D player probably of all time, and have success in S&D, very unsurprising. So looking at it, of course, you had Axon with the 5 and 4, Prev with the 9 and 5, and TJ with the 10 and 6. That's how they got it done 6-3 on red card, a map that Vegas has decidedly been pretty good on no matter what roster they have. Yeah. So looking at map 3, we had a vault control that was a hot 3-0, a DoorDash vault control. Say it ain't Soka. Not surprising. In the back half of the year, a lot of these vault controls have been very decisive, and we've seen a lot of 3-0s. So looking at it, everybody on Ultra was just shooting. Kleenex, like I said, had a legacy tournament. This was one of the maps that was definitely redefining for his entire trajectory in the Black Ops 6 season, because he was just everywhere on the map, and it felt like he was getting every consequential kill, and Falcons couldn't do anything when it mattered. So, looking at the Hossie hardpoint where we closed this series out, it was 250 to 150 in favor of the Ultra Boys. And usually we don't see big blowouts like this on Hossie. So this is indicative of the fact that Movistar KOI was just so far ahead of Falcons at this point. There was nothing that they could do to really catch up. I mean, Abe was 23 and 13. He was the standout. Of course, you had Kleenex right there with him, 22 and 16. Joe, 23 and 16. So just a great showing from the Ultra, and that's how the Ultra from the KOI boys, and that's how they got it done. Now, looking at our next series, we had, well, not next series, but our concurrent series that was going on at the same time. We had the Boston Breach taking on Team War, went 3-1 in favor of the Boston Breach to the surprise of absolutely no one. And yeah, let's see how it got done. So looking at the series overview, wow, okay, the MVP for this one was Mr. Purge himself with a 75 and 65 scoreline. Cammy, of course, was the second best player with a 1.25. Now, on the Team War side, the only player that stood out was the guy I had my eye on this weekend, Neum, really the best up and coming amateur player on this Team War squad. And then we also sadly had Assault retiring after a not great performance at EWC. So sad to see a former world champ calling it quits there, but I get it. The ecosystem is just not really in a great place to support that right now. So looking at the map 1, we of course had the Boston Breach. I'm sorry, Team War taking a very, very surprising dub here. They came out really hot. Honestly, I tweeted something out about this. I tweeted like eyes emoji or something, and I had to delete the tweet because Boston pulled off a gentleman's sweep. I guess they got their coffee delivery or whatever it was, and they woke up and they were like, "Oh, right, we're the Boston Breach. We should be absolutely thrashing these guys," and they did. So we'll rule this as an uncharacteristic start for the Boston side. Getting dominated like that by Team War, you could argue that it's probably just a map that they're very good at. They were really decent challengers over the years, so probably just a map they were good at, and Boston came out slow. And that's why you see what you saw. But looking at it, of course, Too Real, the pillow, was back on the stage. He had a 1.09. Assault had a 1.4. Great first map of the tournament for him. And then Neum, of course, the new upstart that everyone had their eye on, he had a 1.23. So looking at map 2, the Boston Breach got their lick back, they got their get back, they got whatever you want to say back. They got the momentum back in the series behind a 12 and 6 from Snoop and a 8 and 5 performance from Cam. Must send Cam's sensitivity training for this map. I know, I keep telling that joke. But on the Team War side, the only two that did okay were Neum with an even KD and Too Real also with an even KD. Then looking at the proto control, this was an absolute stomping from the Boston Breach. Cammy just took over and said, "Yeah, we're the Boston Breach. You guys aren't getting anything else." Then the map 4, Cammy continued that statement with a dominant KD, 1.71. He absolutely went to sensitivity training before this one. So, yeah, I mean, everybody in the Boston Breach is frying. Him and his AR duo Awake, they had the best KDs on the team, which is very encouraging for Boston, considering those two were the ones that struggled the most, at least consistently. Okay, so Group D was the group of death, as I like to say. You guys know I was expecting this one to be absolutely nutty because we had Omit in there. Omit is full of it's full of two former pro players and two players that arguably should be pros, Craze and Mamba. People have been asking for years when Mamba especially is getting his call up, and same with Craze after this tournament. But even before, they were saying, like, he's just been dominating challengers all year. This Omit team has been dominating all year. They even won challengers champs, and they had Mac and Vivid on their team. And you guys know Mac played most of the season on C9. He was decent, definitely not a player who we thought should be axed out of the pro scene just unanimously because he was trash. And Vivid, I mean, a lot of people still go to bat for him and say that he is the missing piece that could make a lot of struggling teams better, right? So people are very high on Vivid, and Mac, his stock didn't drop to hell, right? So people were still relatively respectful of Mac's stock. Crazy Mamba, they were the two that we weren't sure about because, no one had seen them play at the pro level yet. That's why I thought this was a group of death. P7 was not really a team I was considering breakthrough, but it was really the Omit team that I thought could play spoiler and potentially make it to the bracket. So, looking at this series, we of course had Team Heretics taking on Project 7. And yeah, of course, the Heretics, they swept the floor with these guys. The Rookie of the Year, Rancor, was the standout for the series. He had a 1.91 on the series. And then his rookie duo, Super, was right there with him with a 1.54. So the rookies, they did their thing. And yeah, I mean, not really too surprising. They're Heretics. Back half of the year, you guys know, I thought they were probably one of the top 3 teams. So yeah, I mean, sadly for me as a Faze fan, we just did not match up well against those guys at the end of the year after they brought Super in. They got a lot faster. They just got consequently a lot better. So, looking at the map one, this was a vault that went the way of the Miami Heretics. Very unsurprisingly, vault's been a map that they've really been super, super strong on ever since adding Super. No pun intended. But yeah, I mean, a 2.12 from Rancor, absolute thrashing with that damn belt. I mean, let's move on to the next map. That is brutal. Looking at the map too, oh my god, Real, all too Real for him. 2.0 on the map. I mean, damn, what weren't they letting that brother do? Well, clearly die. And then on the other side for P7, you have Brack as the lone standout 10 and 7. You guys know I've always been very high on Brack. If you go back to my Black Ops 4 videos from about 8 years ago, I was a big Brack and Skies fan then. So yeah, I hope Brack gets back in the league. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Just slight tangent. But yeah, getting into map 3, Hossie control pretty much went the way that we all expected to. Miami, they are Hossie demons. So yeah, I wasn't expecting to ever see them lose Hacienda unless they played Optic. So looking at it, of course, Metals, he had a 1.5. Metals had a great weekend, really flew under the radar, but I think that's why Heretics was like really going so hard this weekend. He was super consistent, and it looked like Metals of old. So looking at Rancor, he had a 1.83, stand out in the KD leaderboard, of course, again, and then Super, who else but is number 2. So that's how the Miami Heretics got their hot 3 over P7. Faze, they got the crappy end of the stick, right? They drew Omit, which is just tough. And then they didn't look great after they drew Omit, right? You had Draza and Simp with a 0.99, Abizi with a 0.91, and Cell with a 1.11, and they barely won the series. Craze went nuts. He had a 1.17, Mamba with a 1.01, and then Mac and Vivid both went neg, but they almost won the series, so you can't really put too much weight on the KD. Now, looking at the first map, we of course had Abizi going 33 and 28, Draza going 37 and 33, Simp going 35 and 33, and Cell going 32 and 30 for the dub. And on the other side, you had Craze dropping a 40 and 34 bomb for the L. Map 2, Red Card S&D, a map that Faze has typically been pretty good on. I mean, Vivid was just absolutely having bad. He was having relentlessly, and that was a difference maker there. He's 8 and 4. And then on the Faze side, the only 2 players who did decently were Cell and Simp. Map 3, Protocol Control. Map that Faze has been really good on at the back half of the year. I mean, they got absolutely Kentucky fried here, ladies and gents. Mac with a 1.7, Mamba with a 1.23, and Vivid with a 1.64. To be fair, Mac was always really good at protocol control, and so was Vivid. So, them being such standouts and taking that from such a good Faze team is just a testament to how good they had always been on that map. Yeah. So, it is what it is. Map 4 Skyline, Hardpoint went the way of Atlanta Faze. They finally had to get back in this series. Saw had a 1.36, and Draws, his AR duo, had a 1.08. And then on the Omit side, Craze had a 1.26, and his duo, Mamba, had a 1.12. And then in the Game 5 S&D, this went the way of Faze, but they went down 5-2. This was the most insane comeback that I've seen them pull off in a while because it was against such a hot Omit team that just won Challengers Champs. And then you had Craze dropping 12 and 8 in that game. He felt unkillable as a viewer, right? So I was very nervous that FaZe would lose this one, but they brought it back and they won. So still had a 1.83 in this game 5 round 11. Draws a 9 and 6, Simp 9 and 8, and then Abizi uncharacteristically 3 and 10. So just a rough showing from the FaZe boys KD wise in the series, but they got the dub very closely. They got it. They clutched up. I mean, what can be said other than it was a phenomenal clutch, but overall, not a good performance. And you guys know I'm like the world's biggest FaZe fan, so me saying that is pretty damning. Now, let's look at the next decider match. I'm sorry, the first match to give a team a bracket berth. So Cloud9 versus Optic, I believe was the first match, right? No, it was not. Yes, it was. I was right. Okay. So Cloud9 versus Optic, of course, you guys can see went the way of the green wall, but it was the first match for the deciders, first round of deciders for bracket play. And then we had Vancouver taking on the 100 Thieves side. So looking at this Vancouver versus 100 Thieves matchup, this one was an absolute bang out, ladies and gents. So looking at it, the 100 Thieves boys, they were looking to get their revenge on a Vancouver Surge that knocked them out of champs. But the revenge is a dish best served cold sometimes. Because sometimes you don't get that revenge, just like the LA Thieves. I mean, damn, bro. 04 with the 1.06, Abuza with a 1.18, and then on the other side, you had Hydra with a 1.1 and Scrap with a 1.13. Envoy 0.74 is crazy, bro. All right, let's look at the maps. Rewind map 1, of course, went the way of the Vancouver Surge, 250 to 201, behind a 41 and 21 from Abuza. I remember watching this, it felt like Abuza was unkillable, bro. Like, he was a Terminator on the map. He was just absolutely cooking them like a, I don't even know, like a A5 Wagyu steak. I mean, what else is there to say? And then on the 100 Thieves side, of course, Scrap is the only player to go positive. Pretty much what you expect from the current reigning MVP, 1.03. But let's not, get too excited. The 100 Thieves side were able to rebound in map 2, Rewind S&D. Rewind is usually a map that Thieves are very dominant on, specifically Scrap and Hydra. So them getting a get back in S&D is not really that surprising. And honestly, the catalyst for this get back for the Thieves in map 2 was Envoy going absolutely bonkers. He was 11 and 5, unkillable on the map. And yeah, he was super slippery in this one. So yeah, I mean, sometimes Envoy is like the most slippery, difficult, like big brain kill on the map, and other times he's just dropping 0.64. So I don't know. It's hard. Like that play style is very, very punishing. Like either you make the plays all the time or you get played all the time. And that's kind of the issue with Envoy's play style, I think. Yeah, but on the other side, Neptune, of course, did Neptune things. He's 12 and 8, but wasn't good enough to get the dub here. Now, looking at the map 3, Vault Control, we of course had Abuza 04 being the only person on the Vancouver Surge side to go slightly positive. And then on the 100 Thieves side, you of course just had Hydra and Scrap, the new duo, just destroying everything. 31-16 from Scrap, 20-16 from Hydra. That's all she wrote. Now, the map for Hacienda Hardpoint was an absolute banger. This came down to the last hill, as you guys can see based on the score. Vancouver was up 229 to 209, and they just closed it out decisively, 250 to 229. So that means in the last hill, they outscored the Thieves by, a solid 21 points to Thieves 20, but obviously, consequentially, they were at 229. So that 21 got them the dub. So looking at the KDs, 04 at a 1.17. Abuza went nuts again with the 1.31 like he did in map 1, but map 1 is 41 and 21. So yeah, comparable, but not exactly the same. 34 on Hacienda is pretty much keeping pace with 41 on Rewind, though, to be fair. And then Nep, 29-24, great performance for him, great contribution. That's how they got to a game 5. On the Thieves side, of course, Hydra tried to keep them in the 1.68 with 37 kills. God damn! Somebody get Paco some help here. Oh, wait, Envoy at a 0.45. All right, we go next. We out. Game 5. Let's see how it went down. 04. God damn. 3.33 is crazy, brother. 10 and 3 on the series is nuts. All right. And then Nasty Mr. Consistent, as I like to call him in S&D for the Surge, 9 and 6. Honestly, if I still did prize picks, bro, like I would always take Nasty Map 2. But I stopped in like April, so that's never happening. But honestly, this dude was always dropping 9 in S&D, or at least 8. So when I used to do it, his line was like 7 or something. So it would have been just free cash back after the season. But, that's why you don't bet on COD. It's just too random. Anyways, in the game 5, with everything on the line, Ghosty and Scrap, the AR duo, they tried to do their thing. But the Vancouver Surge, they were just telegraphing all of their combos. It was like an episode of Naruto, bro. Like, it was crazy. So, yeah, that's how the Vancouver Surge got it done in 5 to send the LA Thieves out to the deciding side of the bracket. They sent to losers again. Wow. Last time they eliminated them from the tournament. This time they sent them to losers for the decider match to be played later on Friday at that time. So yeah, Vancouver at the back half of the year, they clearly just had LA Thieves number and they were just telegraphing everything they tried to do. Now, speaking of teams that had another team's number all year long, we had Optic taking on Cloud9. And pretty much all year, Optic just whooped these guys pretty convincingly. No head to head in the last 3 months, but I do remember from Pick'ems, Optic pretty much always took this. So looking at it, honestly, everyone on the Optic side is pretty close to even. But Mercules was a clear standout to 1.32. Then on the Cloud9 side, you had, of course, Gwyn and Sib, the two players you expect to be positive, going positive, but ever so slightly. Now, looking at the map one, Rewind HP, you, of course, had the green wall standing tall, after all, behind who else but Mercules with a 33 and 23 performance. The yodeling kid was yodeling in that Walmart, well, I guess that video store. And yeah, shout out to Mason Ramsey. So looking at the cloud, he's not the yodeling kid, by the way. I just want to say that before someone actually takes me seriously. Chris said he's the yodeling kid. No, Chris said something that people have joked about. He's not the yodeling kid, okay? Anyways, Sib, he yodeled his very best, but he didn't know what to do. And that was a 1.19 for him on the series, on the map, excuse me. And Gwyn, he tried as well, but 1.04 not going to get it done when you got Dashy, Hook, and Mercules going absolutely nuclear on the map. So looking at the map too, we had Protocol S&D going 6-4 in favor of the green wall. Unsurprisingly, but what was surprising about this map was the Warlord's takeover. I mean, god damn. 15-7 from Shotzi is absolute diabolical behavior. This dude has not been like on a ringer like this in S&D since the early part of the year where he dropped like 16 and 8. Wow. And that was on Protocol. So that shows you how long ago that was. Damn. Okay, Shotzi was on a mission here. And then on the other side for Cloud9, of course, Gwyn was the only person to have a positive KD, and then Spart went even. So yeah, they did their very best, but Optic was just too much. Then looking at the map 3, Hasi Control, everybody except for Mercules on the Optic side went negative. And then on the Cloud9 side, ironically, everybody except for Spart went positive. So Sib was the map standout here with the 1.39, Grandpa to 1.13, and then, of course, Gwyn had a 1.09. But on the Optic side, the only player, like I said, to go positive was Merc, the 1.19, and they won the map. So, objective efficiency matters more than KD. As you guys can see, C9's KD was really, really solid, but their objective efficiency ass. So, it is what it is. Let's close that bad boy out and go on to the next one. All right. So, the next set of series that we had were the winners matches for the groups. Of course, we had Movistar KOI taking on the Boston Brioche, and then we had Heretics taking on, my boys Faze, and man, tough one, tough one. So looking at the Movistar KOI series, let's save the worst for last. Honestly, it was just a blowout. Abe, he really, really cooked here. This was a standout series for him. He had a 1.39 on the series, and then everyone on Toronto. On Movistar went positive. Joe Deceives with the 1.29. Kleenex with the 1.14, and Insight went even. So let's get into the map by map breakdown. Map 1, Vault HP, went 250 to 105 in favor of Movistar KOI to the surprise of absolutely no one. Insight 1.5, Abe with the 1.74, damn. Kleenex with the 1.19, and then Joe with the 1.32. So everybody on Ultra, they were just coasting in this one. Then they took that momentum and they chained it into a round 11 dub against the Boston Breach. As you guys can see, KOI won the first round. Breach, they won the next two. KOI won the next three to go up 4-2. Breach won round, round 7. KOI won round 8. And then Breach won 9 and 10 to force us to 11, where KOI was able to take it all. So looking at at the map, we of course had Abe and Joe Deceives SNG duo as a standout. Joe had the highest KD in this map for the Movistar side. And then on the Boston Breach side, you of course had Snoopy with a 1.83. So he was trying to do his very best, but just was not good enough in this map. Looking at the map 3, where this series ended, of course, Purge was the only player on Boston to have a green KD, and he just went even, so it wasn't even positive. And then, of course, on the KOI side, we had Abe with the 1.14 and his SMG duo, Joe Deceives, with the 1.15. Well, actually, Abe is not an SMG. It's Kleenex and Joe Deceives, they're SMGs. I don't know why I said that. Anyways, Abe and Joe were the two standouts, and then Kleenex had a great map. So, great showing from the Movistar boys. That's how they got it done in DoorDash style. Now, looking at another series that I genuinely don't want to look at, we had my home team, Atlanta Faze, taking on the Team Heretics boys, and damn, it was a thrashing. So, looking at the series overview, we had Metals with a positive KD as well as Super, and then on the Faze side, you of course had Celium to be expected, with a positive KD, and a BZ with a 1.13. So, MVP of the series was Super. Unsurprisingly, that guy's been on an absolute tear back half of the year. So looking at the map 1 performance from Heretics, they took Rewind 250 to 175. They absolutely dumpstered the Faze boys. And yeah, I mean, Simp went 17 and 26. That is not going to cut it. Draws went 35 and 26. He did his thing. Abizi 28 and 27. But when you have the boys on Team Heretics going 29 and 25 and 27 and 23 and then 27 and 27, comparatively, you'd expect them to win the map. Now, map 2 is where Faze was able to get their get back on Hacienda S&D. Surprisingly, Heretics been a really good Hacienda team, especially in S&D. So wasn't expecting Faze to win this one, but they did. So yeah, I mean, Abizi went 10 and 3, very dominant for him. Nice get back. Cell was 8 and 3, and then of course Simp was 5 and 5. So great get back from the Faze boys. And then on map 3, Hacienda Control, we ran it back with a double Hasi. So yeah, honestly, this was the medal show. On this one, he was just absolutely frying. His SMG was on point. And yeah, I mean, he was flexing like nobody's business. So looking at it, medals, of course, the standout, 1.26. Super had a 1.22. And then on the Faze side, because he was the only player to go positive, along with his duo Simp. Simp was a standout for the Faze boys with a 1.32. And Draws had a 0.48. So yeah, I mean, just a rough weekend for Faze. Another one. So looking at the map for it, we of course had Metals with the 1.07 and Super with the 1.07. And then on the Faze side, we had Cell with the 1.23 as the only player on Faze who had a really positive KD. But that didn't matter as much because look at this game flow. I mean, Faze almost brought it back. They had an abysmal start. Absolutely abysmal start. I mean, at the peak, wow. At the peak, you guys can see they're down by like, what, 119 points? So that's pretty bad. But then they slowly brought it back 100. Damn, it got worse. Okay. So yeah, I mean, as you guys can see by this game flow, Faze was able to bring it very, very close. Hill number 10, they got within 1 point after being down by 119. So amazing comeback, but then they lost by 2. Can't have a more heartbreaking loss than that. Losing 250 to 248, especially considering the fact that they needed 2 seconds going into kitchen and they just gave up the hold. Like they could have won the map and forced a game 5, but hey, you know, if we're a 5th, we'd all be what? So yeah, that's how we ended the day with Heretics and of course the Movistar KOI boys moving to the bracket. But let's look at how we started the next day. So the next day we started things bright and early at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we had Gentlemates taking on Team Orchid from the Group B side, and we had Falcons taking on Team War from the Group C side. So Gentlemates took down Orchid in the fashion we all would expect. Looking at the series overview, of course, Lunars had a 1.3, which is pretty surprising. We all expected this to be another hashtag Free the Bulldog series, but he had 93 and 81. So, you know, more engagements, just lower KD overall. But Lunars, I mean, he was plus 20, so it is what it is. I mean, plus 20 is plus 20. So looking at the series, that's all I have to say. But looking at map 1, it looked like the Gentlemates had a lot to say after getting absolutely trounced by the LA Thieves in a very close 3-0, must be said. So looking at it, Diamond Con, of course, was 27-24. The Bulldog, 29-24. Lunars was 29-21, one of his best maps of the year. And then Johnny, 28-22. On the Team Orchid side, everybody went negative. And Beans with a 0.55 is crazy because he was just on Ultra not that long ago. But looking at the map 2, of course, the Gentlemates were able to chain that momentum from map 1 into a very, very good map 2 performance behind the SMG duo of Kismet and, of course, Johnny. Johnny dropped 11 and 5, Kismet dropped 8 and 6, and that's pretty much all she wrote on that 6-4 dub. Now, looking at the map 3 on Vault Control, this, of course, went the way of Team Orchid, so it looked like they were always good for one in the series. In the series prior against Movistar KOI, you guys remember they took the S&D, and in this one, they ended up taking the control. And wow, Harry 32 and 21. If you guys remember, Harry used to play for the London Royal Ravens with Gizmo and, of course, Nasty, if you remember those guys. Yeah, I know you guys remember Nasty. We just talked about him. But yeah. So looking at it on the other side, the Gentlemates, of course, had a pretty rough performance. The only player who did decently well was Diamond Com with a 1.17. So looking at the map 4, we of course closed things out on Vault Hardpoint. Beans was the only player on Team Orchid to do decent with a 1.05, so slight redemption. And then on the GM side, we of course had everybody going positive. Lunars dropped a 1.48, and Kismet, the Bulldog, he dropped a 1.43. So everybody on the Gentlemate side looked really solid in this map 4. Now let's move on to Team War versus Falcons because tale of two series, right? Everybody on the Gentlemate side looked great. Everybody on the Team War side, man, rough one. Now, looking at the series overview, the standout was who but Mr. Pred AG himself. He bet on himself. I know you guys are tired of hearing the Pred gambling jokes, but what else is there to joke about nowadays? I mean, season's over. So looking at it, of course, Pred was the series standout, plus 21.56. I mean, what couldn't this man do in this series? God, dog. So let's look at the map one where the Predator was unleashed, excuse me, as they like to say in the broadcast. And yeah, I mean, Pred 28 and 15, 250 to 176. Not really a lot to say about that Hossie hard point. His duo, Exnid, did very well, 1.17. So great performance from those boys, and that's how they got it done in map one. Dealership map two, much of the same. I mean, it's a 6-2, very dominant performance from the Vegas Falcons side. Pred 8 and 3, and Fat Bob, or as his gamer tag goes, TJ Halley, with a 10-5 performance. That's how they got it done. So looking at the map three, we had a vault control going the way of the Falcons. The Falcons were finally here, not to get corny, but yeah, the only player on the Team War side, the guy who I had my eye on, Mr. Neum, he went positive, but that's the only slight encouraging sign there from the map three. Everybody on the Falcon side did pretty well in this map. RC's 1.3, TJ at the 1.6, and Prev at the 1.11. And that's how they got to the decider match in the bracket. Now, looking at our next round of elimination matches, we had Five Fears taking on G2, Rokkr, whatever you guys want to call them, Kenny's team. And then we had Omit taking on P7 Esports, which, yeah, was this the team? No, this wasn't the team that. This might have been the team that replaced. No. Carolina was replaced by Fire 40's team. So, yeah. Looking at it, looking at the series overview, I mean, yeah, Omit just skill diff these guys, right? Like Mac with a 1.25 is a standout, and then Mamba right there with him with a 1.22. I mean, everybody on the Omit side went positive, and then everybody on the Project 7 side, with the exception of Brack, had a negative performance. So looking at the map one, Hacienda HP, this of course surprisingly went the way of P7. They absolutely dominated this one, and this was a map that Omit hadn't lost supposedly in weeks, so that was pretty surprising. Very hot start from Brack and the boys. Brack dropped a 1.6, and he was plus 12, and then Standy, of course, had a 1.08. That's how they got it done, 250, 177. It has to be said, though, just watching this map, it was all about objective play. P7, they were just occupying the hill really efficiently, and they made all of their kills really count for a lot. On the Omit side, of course, Mac, he did his very best. He did 1.23. He was shooting, but, you know, it was just really objective efficiency from P7, to be honest with you. So look at the map two. Looking at the map two, of course, the Omit side definitely dominated this one. Craze, he repeated his performance against Faze with an 11 and 7 on Protocol S&D. And then Mamba, his duo, had a 12 and 4. He was absolutely unkillable on this map. And then, of course, Brack and Proloot, they did their very best. Brack the 9 and 6, and Proloot with the 7 and 7. But Omit was just back, evidently. Now, in the map 3, Proto Control, we, of course, had Omit taking a very decisive 3-1 on this one. Craze with a 1.46, Mac with a 1.71, Mamba with a 1.67, and Vivid with the 1.47. Yeah, you expect those guys to win the map. Looking at the map 4, we had a Skyline Hardpoint. No surprise there, right? A lot of map 4s in the EWC tournament so far have been Skylines that we've seen. So looking at the map 4, Proloot was the lone standout here with the 1.3, and then Omit, they just fried, right? Like 1.19 from Craze, 1.21 from Mac, Mamba with the 1.04, and Vivid with the 1.47 again. So he had the same KD in maps 3 and 4, which is kind of interesting. That rarely happens. But yeah, I mean, looking at this black is almost impossible to see. So in the off chance anyone from Breaking Point is watching this, you might want to change out this black color if you ever do this again, because, you know, it's very hard to see. But yeah, that's how the series went down. And then let's look at the more interesting one. We had Five Fears. This was the team that actually replaced the Carolina Royal Ravens in the bracket. So very interesting to see them get through. They were one of, well, actually, not going to spoil it. Let's just talk about the series. So looking at the overview, we had Capsule putting up a 1.02. Fire 40 had a serious redemption in the series with a 1.17. Fire 40 has been one of the biggest jokes in the COD community for years. People have been joking on that man's name, and he had enough. So I'm really happy to see that for him, because people were just foul, absolutely disrespectful to the man. I mean, look at the sweatshirt he's wearing. He played for Paris Legion, bro. You guys know I was a Legion fan. We were terrible. Like, terrible. I mean, you can't really gauge a guy's career off the fact that he started on Legion. That's crazy. So Estro was the lone standout for the G2 side. And then everybody else just, I don't know what happened. So looking at the map 1, we of course had the, wow, 5 Fears boys coming out hot, 250 to 237, and taking this one from a pro team, G2 Esports. So looking at it, Exceed, the former Burger King, now the king of frying up the burgers. He dropped a 1.17, 41 and 35 for the dub. Then his duo Fire, he had 36 and 30 for a 1.2. Then Hixie went even with 37 and 37, which you got to tip. 4,700 damage is respectable, but Exceed with 5,300 is crazy. Basically 5,400. And then on the G2 side, Escher was the only one to go even, and then everybody else went slightly neg. So, yeah, I mean, looking at this flowchart, 5 Fears, they had a very, very decisive lead in the back half of this game for the last 4 hills, and it took them 4 hills to get 34 points. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is more of a throw from the Rokkr side or just a really great performance from the 5 Fears side. I'm going to say a great performance from the 5 Fears side more than a throw from Rokkr, right? And then looking at it on the map 2, G2 is finally able to rebound in the series behind a strong performance from who else but Quavo Kenny, the former world champ, well, the 2024 world champ, right? Before getting dropped from Optic midseason and joining this G2 team. He took over, and then Estriel supported him with a nice 1.4 KD on the map, and that's how the G2 boys won the Hasi S&D. Now, we had another Hasi. We ran it back, Hasi control for the map 3, where, of course, the G2 boys were able to take that momentum they had in a strong Hasi map 2 performance and chain it into a strong map 3 performance behind who else but Nero, the hero, who never drops 0. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, this was a great performance from the G2 boys to regain momentum against a very formidable amateur team, it has to be said, but an amateur team nonetheless. On the 5 Fear side, Fire 40 was the only player to have a positive KD, but of course, Capsule, as you guys can see, went even, and Exceed had a pretty uncharacteristically bad one. So, that's the difference there. Looking at the map 4, we of course had 5 Fears rebounding in the series. Honestly, I was not expecting them to win this one. I thought Rokkr would close it out 3-1, but you can never count out Fire 40. That brother went absolutely nuts in the back half of this game. He put up 4,700 damage. I mean, what else do we need to say, right? I mean, looking at the G2 side, Estrel had a 1.5 and Ken had a 1.07, but Geo and Nero were getting fried. And that was the difference maker there. So looking at it too, I mean, they got heavily outslayed, 114 to 103 in the kills. They were not heavily outdamaged, but I mean, almost 1,000 more damage, which you have to figure accounts for about 10 kills. And then the highest lead, okay, yeah, I mean, G2, they did pretty decent, but clearly 5 Fears was just better everywhere else it mattered, right? Like, all the advanced metrics say that 5 Fears just had a better map. So looking at another place where 5 Fears just had a better map, we have the map 5, S&D on Dealership, where Exceed, the former Burger King, dropped 6.5 in his KD, 13 and 2. Nah, that's nuts. He went from being the Burger King to the Riyadh King. What? Bro, that's insane. And then looking at it, Capsule, of course, also had a great performance. He was 10 and 7. And then on the G2 side, Estriel was 7 and 6, but everybody else got absolutely fried. I mean, wow. And that's how the G2 team was blown up. Now, looking at these next series, we have our first couple deciders. So we had Gentlemates taking on 100 Thieves, and then we had Boston Breach taking on the Falcons. So we're going to look at Gentlemates versus 100 Thieves first because obviously much shorter series. Yeah, looking at it, it went 250 to 78 in favor of the Thieves on map 1 Skyline. But let's look at the series overview first. Hydra. Paco got his taco, evidently. And yeah, I mean, he absolutely fried. He had a 1.25, Ghosty 1.22, Envoy 1.01, and Scrap with a 1.2. And then on the Gentlemate side, no more Free the Bulldog narrative, right? I mean, Johnny was the only one to go even. So just a rough series for those boys. Looking at Skyline Map 1, I mean, damn. Thieves just belted these guys. They absolutely rebound in the rubber match against the LA Gorillas mates or whatever they're called in the CDL. Damn, Diamond Con. 9 and 23 is crazy, bro. 5 more than Zuma. Anyways, on the LA Thieves side, you of course had Envoy 19 and 13, Hydra 26 and 27 and 16, Ghosty 27 and 16, Hydra 22 and 21, and then Scrap 24 and 16 for a 250-78 dub. One of the more dominant dubs we saw this weekend. Well, last weekend, time of recording. Looking at the map too, we of course had Envoy with an 8 and 3 performance, Ghosty with an 8 and 4, Hydra with an 8 and 4, and then Scrap with 4 and 6. So yeah, they just cooked map 2 on the Hasi S&D. Chain that into a Hasi map 3 control, where ironically the Gentlemates were able to get a good back. Johnny dropped 42 and 23. I remember that map. He was actually untradeable. I remember watching. Dude was just in the Matrix. He looked like Neo against the agents. And then Hydra on the LA Thieves side is the only one to go pause with a 1.21. So, yeah, I mean, it was honestly the Johnny and Diamond Con map, and that's how they got it done. And then, speaking of getting it done, the Thieves were like, yeah, let's go back to reality. Scrap dropped 34 and 20. Hydra dropped 25 and 18. Ghosty 18 and 14. And Envoy 21 and 17 for a 250 to 119 dub on Rewind to close this one out and send Thieves through to the bracket. Now, looking at the Boston Breach versus Team Falcon series, this went all the way down to a game 5. Super, super close series. Very fun one. I knew a green team was going to win no matter what. Sorry to make a corny joke. But yeah, it was a fun one. So looking at the series overview, of course, the KD leader was who else but Pred AG with a 94 and 78. World champ in 2024 on Optic, right? Pretty surprising to even see him on Falcons, but if he's there, you know he's going to have a pretty good performance. And then RC's former world champ with a 1.08 on the Falcon side, only two to get positive KDs on the series. And then on the Boston Breach side, you of course had Cam with the 1.05, Purge with the 1.03, and Snoop with the 1.04. So not crazy, but enough to get it done. Looking at the map 1, you of course had the Vegas Falcons taking a very, very close one, 250 to 238 to start out really hot, behind a 1.26 from Pred and a 1.21 from Teej. Teej dropped 35, and Pred dropped 34. And then RC's, of course, right there with them with 29 and 24 to get them over the hump to get this dub. On the Boston Breach side, the only player to have a really positive KD was Purge, but as you guys can see, Boston Breach's efficiency, which is something I talked about a lot in the Champs Recap video, still on point. Speaking of objective efficiency, they really proved that their objective efficiency was on point in an objective-based game mode like Search and Destroy on Red Card, where they were able to take it with a decisive 6-0. Cammy was 7-1. Wake was 2-2. He had his feet up. Purge was 9-4, and then Snoop was 5-2. And then on the Falcon side, everyone went negative. So yeah. Map 3, Protocol Control, went the way of the Vegas Falcons. Once again, they were here and they were ready to show out. So Pred dropped a 1.57, X had a 1.17, RC's had a 1.14, and then Cammy, of course, was the lone Boston Breach player to have a solid performance of the 1.12. In the map for Hasi Hardpoint, we of course had Cammy and Purge putting up the most kills for their team. But on the other side, I'm sorry, not but, and they got the dub. So 250 to 222. Obviously, Falcons, you guys can see they had better KDs, but Boston Breach and their objective efficiency at the back half of the year is something that must be commended every time we see it go well. These guys were basically getting outslayed, and they won the map. That's a very good COD being played, super efficient, and it takes a really good team to do that. So hats off to the Boston Breach for forcing a game 5, right? Obviously, you see Falcons 1.19 from Big Alec Arcides, Pred with a 1.17, and Tej with a 1.19. They should have won this map, right? I mean, if you're outslaying that much, you typically win the map, but KD is not everything. Looking at map 5, for the third time in this series, the Boston Breach proved that objective efficiency matters more than overt slaying, even though they outslayed these guys by a really wide margin. I mean, 10 kills in S&D is definitely a super wide margin to get outslayed by. You probably lost 6-2 if you're 10 kills down in S&D, right? Yeah, so that's all she wrote on the series. The Boston Breach, pretty unsurprisingly to most of us, were able to get a bracket berth behind this one. So yeah, great showing for them. And another tournament where they place in the top 8. So looking at this next set of series, we had the Five Fears boys taking on Cloud9. And of course, this was another upset that Five Fears was able to get. So yeah, I mean, they had a great weekend. Replacing the Carolina Royal Ravens actually went surprisingly well for them. They were able to get through to the bracket. As you guys can see, they got a 3-2 in the series, but let's get into how it actually went down. So looking at the series overview, the MVP, once again, Fire 40, went absolutely nuts, and he got the Game 5 dub for his boys. And then on the Cloud9 side, you can see Kremp actually had a decent series. He had a 1.12, Gwen had a 1.05, and Sib had a 1.04. So looking at the map one, Skyline, Hardpoint, I mean, damn, 5 Fears absolutely destroyed these guys. Fire 40 went wow, what? 28 and 12, 2.33 against a pro team. Wow. Okay. Maybe he needs to get back in the league. I mean, Gentlemates, you might need to give that brother a call. Hixie had a 1.26. And then on the Cloud9 side, the only player who did decent was Gwyn with the 1.08, but that's negligible at that point, right? And then on the dealership S&D, you had a 6-4 in favor of 5 Fears to go up 2-0 in this series, very surprisingly. Yeah, and how they get it done? Behind Capsule and Fire 40. Cap dropped 1.2 and Fire dropped at 1.17. Then on the Cloud9 side, you of course had Gwyn with a 1.33, Kremp going even, and Spart as well going even, but not enough to get it done. In the map 3 Proto Control, we had a 3-1 in favor of the Cloud9 boys behind a really strong performance from Sib. Sib was like, we're not about to get 3-0'd by an amateur team. That would be absolutely disgraceful, especially after picking up Gwyn, such a highly touted pro player, right? So yeah, Sib dropped 2. Gwyn and Kremp, they had a 1.35. They had matching KDs and everything. But then Spart he had a 1.44. So yeah, Gwyn, Kremp, and Spart almost had the exact same KD. Like if Spart had died one more time, they would have had the exact same KD, which is crazy. Then on 5 Fears, everybody went negative, so not a lot to say there. And the map 4 Hardpoint on Red Card, that of course being a pretty highly chosen map at the back half of the year, right? And we see a red card almost every series. Red card or Remind every series for sure. We see Cloud9 got a really, really decisive dub here behind a strong performance from Kremp, who had the most kills, 36 and 31, and then Sib, who had the best KD, 1.25, 35, and 28. And then on the 5 Fear side, everybody went negative except for who else but Fire 40. 1.1 lone standout to have a good map KD wise, but yeah, I mean, they got tucked. So looking at the game 5, speaking of tucking, Cloud9 got tucked to bed good night so badly they might be considering a damn name change again. No, I'm joking. But anyways, Cramp 7 and 6, and then on the 5 Fears side, you had Capsule 5 and 4, Exceed 5 and 5, Fire 8 and 3, and Hixie 7 and 4 to absolutely stomp the Cloud9 boys and send them home in embarrassing fashion. Speaking of people getting sent home in embarrassing fashion, let's get into how Omit was able to take down a team that went back to back to back, winning the last EWC, our defending EWC champs, and then the team that won Major 1 and Major 2 following EWC to have a three-peat, one of the first since the Optic dynasty. Now, looking at it, of course, the series MVP was who else but Mac Melts, right? He had 97 and 71 on the series. He had a 1.37 KD. And then Craze had a 1.15 and Mob had a 1.04. Everyone on the Faze side went negative, so that's insane to see. But yeah, I mean, the team blew up afterwards. Not to get into too many things I'll talk about later, but yeah, shit sucks right now for me. Anyways, looking at the map 1, of course, the Omit boys were able to get off to a very hot start, winning 250 to 236 on Skyline, a map that Faze has typically been pretty good at, but they've gotten off to some really slow starts in the last few months and had to catch up. And that's kind of what happened in this game, as you guys can see based on the flowchart. I mean, they were down by what, 52 points going into the 11th hill. And yeah, they were never able to catch up after that. So looking at the KD, Simp was 35 and 32. His duo Abizi was 29-29. And then on the Omit side, you of course had Mac with a 1.22 and Craze and Mamba both with 1.03s. So looking at the map 2, we of course had a 6-4 on Hasi in favor of the Faze boys. They finally looked decent for once in this series. Finally woke up. Abizi had 13 and 6. And then his duo Simp, the other Tiny Tear, had a 1.4. Then looking at the Omit side, Mac was 9 and 7, and then his duo Mamba was 6 and 6, but that's pretty much the only good Omit performances on the map. Looking at the Vault Control on the map 3 in the series, Selim was the only player to go positive on Faze with a 1.23, but it was an absolute thrashing from the Omit boys. Mac had a 1.31, Mob had a 1.55, and Vivid had a 1.33. So looking at the red card hardpoint where the series ended, Cell was the only player on Faze to go positive with a 1.04, and then everybody else, like, wow. I mean, Omit, they went nuts. Craze had a 34 and 20 performance, and then Mac had a 38 and 24 performance, and that's how they were able to get it done. sending home our defending EWC inaugural EWC champs in really embarrassing fashion. Now, to recap everything, Optic advanced from the A bracket, 5 years advanced from the A bracket, surprisingly because they're an amateur team, and then Surge and Thieves advanced from the A bracket, which we all expected. But in inverse order, we expected Thieves to come through first in most cases, and then Surge to come through via the decider match. Then in Group C, as we all expected, Movistar KOI came through, and upsetting my expectations, Boston Breach won the decider match. And then in Group D, we were all surprised by this one because Heretics, obviously, a lot of people were expecting them to come through via the matchup against Faze. We weren't expecting Faze to almost lose their matchup to Omit and to almost send Omit through to the decider series. But I'm sorry, not the decider series, but the first winners bracket series. But Omit was able to get it done in the lower bracket in the decider match with a decisive 3-1, as we saw just like 2 minutes ago. And they advanced to the bracket. So that brings us to the playoffs, and that's where we will start our next series dissection. So, looking at the series that kicked it all off, as you guys can see on the schedule, at 10 a.m., we start with the Boston Breach taking on Team Heretics. And I don't think anyone really expected Boston to take this one apart from like girlfriends and parents and shit. But yeah, I mean, this went the way we all expected. Heretics absolutely stomped. Metals had a 1.34. Like I told you guys, Metals had a serious resurgence at EWC. So love to see that for him. You know, he's making all of us old gamers look pretty good. So love that. And then, of course, Real and Rancor, they went nuts in this series. Real had a 1.25 and Rancor had a 1.15. Shout out to the Zombies community. And then the map one, let's look at that. Boston was actually able to take this. They were able to take it 250 to 175. Once again, proving objective efficiency is the most important thing in COD. Looking at the KDs, Real had a 1.42. Metals went even. Rancor had a 1.05. But the Boston Breach boys, they came to play. 1.15 from Cam, 1.05 from Wake. Purge had an uncharacteristically bad 17-25, but Snoop was even. So there was enough slaying on the Boston Breach side to get it done. Let's see how the kills went. So Boston actually got dominated in the kills by about 4. They slightly had more damage, but their objective efficiency was just better. Looking at the map 2, rewind S&D. Of course, we had the Miami Heretics. Team Heretics getting a decisive rebound here. Metals went 13-2. Jesus. Then Real was 7-3. So yeah, dominant performance from the Heretics side, especially Metals. He took over this one. I do remember he was running ish. Yeah, and then Cam was the lone stand on the Breach side, 9-6. But yeah, everybody else is getting fried. 1-6 from Purge, tough. Looking at the vault control, it was a decisive 3-0 for Team Heretics. Of course, Real was 24-13, Metals 21-16. Then the map 4 Skyline HP, Boston Breach's objective efficiency brought them close to a dub, but Miami just massively outslayed them. Rancor is 40-26, and then Metals is 36-28. So yeah, they were able to get it done quite decisively, as you guys can see based on the flow chart. Boston tried, but you know they couldn't hold the lead when they got it, and Miami was able to pull away around the second set of rotations. Well, the second hill in the second set of rotations, and that's pretty much where the game ended. So that's how our first team, Boston Breach, was sent home. Their key got crushed, like everyone else's who didn't make bracket. And then we moved on to our next series where we had, as you guys can see, 5 Fears taking on the Vancouver Surge. So Surge, they DoorDash in record time. I mean, yeah, I mean, we all expected 5 Fears to make the bracket, but, you know, just get a little bit more cash. We didn't expect them to make it too far in the bracket, right? And looking at the series overview, of course, you can see our MVP was who else but Abuza. Abuza had a phenomenal weekend, and then his twin, well, actually, Nasty is right there with him, his AR duo, and then his twin 04 was their best KD on the team. So Abuza telling everybody shut the fuck up because he's better. Yeah, he was just better this weekend. I mean, that's all that can be said. Every time we watch Abuza's POV, he looked like MW3 Abuza, who should have won Rookie of the Year. So looking at the map 1, of course, Fall HP, this was an absolute domination from the Vancouver Surge, especially in the kill feed. You see Abuza had a 1.32. Nep was 30-22 to 1.36. He was a standout on this map, of course. And then his SMG duo 04 had the best kills on the team, but second best KD, or third best KD, excuse me, the 1.24. On the 5 Fear side, I mean, Cap had a really bad stinker, and then Exceed was able to go even, so that's all she wrote there. Dealership S&D, 6-1. I mean, Vancouver Surge needed some legroom. Word to Drake. And 3.5 from Nasty, Mr. Consistent S&D, and 04 at the 1.6. That's all she wrote. Exceed tried his very best, it has to be said, with a 1.67, but yeah, not enough. Not enough. Map 3, we had a protocol control where the Vancouver Surge took the belt out, whooped the ass again, and yeah, took the key. So Abuza with a 1.43 to take the key. Diabolical work. And yeah, that's how it all got done with a 3-0 DoorDash for the Vancouver Surge. Now, next series, we had Movistar KOI taking on Omit. And this is a very, 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 very bad look for me as a Faze fan. I mean, look at the angry Benjay emote. This is exactly how I felt watching Movistar KOI lay belt to ass like that to Omit. I was like, damn, my goats might be washed. We might be finished. And we aren't. I mean, look at these tweets, guys. I mean, we're fucking finished. Now, enough with my crashing out. Joe Deceives, he crashed out 76 and 49. He said, this is for my boy Abizi, my potential future teammate Abizi. It might be an Abe for Abizi trade, which would be crazy. And then Insight, he said, fuck getting dropped. I'm not getting dropped, even though he did with a 1.44. Now on the Omit side, of course, Craze did his very best, 1.02. But yeah, you know, those guys are amateurs, and this is where Movistar KOI proved it. So yeah, looking at the map, one, we of course had Insight going 34 and 25, and Joe Deceives going 43 and 21. That brother put them on the table and said, admire. God damn. Then in the map 2, Protocol S&D, the Movistar KOI boys were able to get it done in a decisive round 11 after going up 4-1, Omit bringing it back to 4-4, going up 5-4, Omit bringing it to 5-5, and then winning the round 11. I mean, honestly, in this round 11 too, the thing was Ultra absolutely skill diffed these guys. Like, they fried them. I mean, it was one of the better round 11s that I've seen from the attacking position, because I believe Ultra had bomb, got bombed down, and then they absolutely cooked Omit on their attempt at the retake. So just some great COD being played by the Toronto Movistar KOI boys. So looking at the map 3 Vault Control, where we ended this one, Insight went 26 and 13, and then Joe Deceives was 26 and 21, and that's how it ended. So Crazy did his very best to keep that key from getting crushed, but Movistar KOI, they said, yeah, give me your key, brother. Give me your ring. Like they said in that Supreme Dream skit. Give me your ring. Give me your key. Let me crush that shit. So yeah, only reason I'm like more excited is because Omit knocked my team out. So yeah, in my opinion, fuck those guys, right? So yeah, let's look at the next series where some fans definitely said fuck those guys after some things went down. And that is the Optic versus 100 Thieves series. A series that I feel like we've been robbed of a lot this year, right? Like, we saw them face off at Major 4. Obviously, LA Thieves took that belt out and whooped that ass. But now we see a get back series for the first time in 3 months, damn near. And yeah, very different receipt here when you take 2 months and let a team cook, right? So looking at the series overview, we of course had who else but the human anti-cheat himself, Dashy, dropping 90. And then his duo, Mercules, 89 and 67 from the kid is nuts. I mean, this dude, this was his third event? Fourth event? This is his fourth event on the year. Dude's literally 2 for 2 on events. I mean, he's won 2. The 2 he won were champs in EWC. This guy's insane. Like, legendary story being told right now. And then on the 100 Thieves side, yeah, I mean, they showed up. Scrap 105, 1.05, Hydra 1.04, and then damn, Envoy 0.67. God damn. All right, we out. Let's move on to map 1. Optic absolutely belted these guys. You want to talk about belt to ass? Sheesh. 30 and 17 from Merc. Warlord 19 and 16, 22 and 17 from Hook, and 24 and 23 from the human anti-cheat himself to get it done 250 to 116. Absolutely brutal. Then on map 2, of course, you had Mr. Human Anti-Cheat Dash. You go in 10 and 7, but the Thieves were able to finally rebound, and this is behind a strong 9 and 6 from Hydra, a decent 5 and 4 from Ghosty, and an 8 and 8 even performance from Scrap. Now, the map 3 Hacienda Control, I mean, not a lot to say about that. I mean, Merc Diff, right? Like, 29 and 19 is crazy. And then Dash is right there with him with 24 and 19. Now, on the 100 Thieves side, everybody went negative except for Mr. MVP Scrap, who was 23 and 20. And Hydra, another former MVP, who was 22 and 20. Now, on the Rewind HP, this is where Optic actually got it done. They absolutely destroyed these guys. They fried them 250 to 193. The human anti-cheat Dashy, he said, cheaters detected, get out of my lobby, shitters. And he sent them home in record fashion. LA Thieves, Crybaby Cheese, Nate Shot roster change, please. Don't matter. Optic info. Now, looking at the LA Thieves side, of course, Hydra and Scrap, once again, they tried their very best. But when you have Envoy dropping a 0.7, I mean, try your very best, but you're going to be getting your key crushed with the rest. You know what I'm saying? So the 27 and 22 from Hydra and 26 and 24 from Scrap were very respectable, but not enough, as Kendrick likes to say. Now, let's look at our next series in the bracket. We had Movistar, Vancouver getting 3-0s, right? And then you had Optic and Heretics getting 3-1s. So that means our next matchup, we will see Optic, Texas, or Optic Gaming, whatever the hell they're called at the Esports World Cup, taking on the Team Heretics boys. Now, I know we're over an hour. We're at an hour and 10 minutes, but, you guys who are long-term viewers of the channel, y'all be rocking with me, so I'm going to just do what I'm doing. Now, Vancouver versus Movistar. This is actually the Battle of the North reincarnate. If you guys were watching this throughout the season, you know that Toronto Ultra taking on Vancouver Surge was always a very fun series, and it went back and forth quite a bit. So, actually, let's look at the last head-to-head, right? So, no, Surge in the last couple months, they've been dominating this. So, 3-1, 3-0, yeah, I mean, okay. But yeah, looking at the series overview, of course, Abuza, the men I've been talking about nonstop with the Vancouver Surge every time I've talked about them in this video, right? He had a standout performance of the 1.01. And then on the Movistar side, you of course had Insight with a 1.13, surprisingly, considering how his season's gone. And then Joe Deceives the 1.17. We have to talk about Insight's weekend, right? Like, the guy had an absolute turnaround weekend for his career. Like, that was really, really tippable what he did for himself. Looking at the map one, of course, this being a red card HP, 04 and Abuza, the twin duo, whatever you want to call them, they did their thing on this map. 38 and 33 from 04 and 39 and 30 from Abuza. And then you, of course, had Neptune 36 and 31. He was a huge help. Now, on the other side for Movistar, you had Insight and Joe Deceives. That duo was going nuts all weekend. Insight with 36 and Joe with 38, but it was not enough to get it done. You know where it was enough to get it done, though? Map 2, Dealership S&D, where the Movistar boys were able to get a decisive 6-2 behind an 8-2 from Kleenex and an 8-5 performance from their new pickup, Abe. So, looking at the map 3, we of course had the Vancouver Surge getting that get back, taking that belt back, and giving the Movistar KOIs some vicious lashes in that pot. So looking at it, 04 was a standout on this map, 35 and 33. And his SMG duo, Neptune, was right there with him, 34 and 30. Then on the Movistar side, you had Abe going 32 and 29. And then you had Insight, 28 and 26. Joe Deceives 29 28, but that was not enough to get it done on the Vault control. Looking at the map for Vault HP, we had a 250 to 161 in favor of the Movistar KOI boys, behind a strong performance from who else but Joe Deceives, who dropped 41 and 28 for the dub, 1.46 on the map. Kleenex, his SMG duo, had 34 and 27, second best KD on the team. And then Insight was right there with the two of them with a 1.24. That's how Movistar was able to blow them out 250 to 161, forcing a game 5, another game 5 on protocol that went to round 11 this weekend. EWC produced a lot of game 5, round 11 protocol S&Ds, and I don't fucking know why. I don't know why. Now, looking at the map 5, we of course had Abuza and Mr. Consistent doing the bulk of the work for the Vancouver Surge to get this dub and get them over the hump. Then you had Kleenex and Insight, that former duo. They went nuts. They had a 1.11 and they had the same KD. So that's a tough way to lose a series or a tournament, right? And get eliminated. So let's check it out.
Now's the time with the stuns.
Let's wait for the quality to get better.
Is anyone here? The trophies are good. The damage. RC! Oh! 2v1! The hopes of Movistar KOI rest on Jamie Craven. The stones are nasty to call that in. The utility, everything around him. And the RC gets called inside for the 1v2. It's all hit the fan. Opening shots, 1v1. It's a mirror match. It's a reversal. The last time we were here, Abuza walked away with it. Insight to make the push for the 1v2. Abuza holds it down. Abe on the close door.
Ladies and gents, Neptune has actually evolved. Now he speaks shit in uppercase. You love that. You love that player evolution. Only in the CDL. So, speaking of hashtag only in the CDL, we had the Miami Heretics delivering another series of the year. I'm going to do a top 5 series of the year, and Miami Heretics, spoiler alert, they're in 3 of them. So, looking at another one that was added to the list, Miami was able to start out hot on the skyline, but let's look at the series overview first. The Warlord got the match MVP. Of course, Shotzi took over in this series and brought it back from the depths to get the Optic boys a dub and keep on dancing. Looking at the Miami Team Heretics side, Super had a 1.14 and Real had a 1.03, and then Shotzi, of course, on the Optic side was the only one to go pause with a 1.12. Looking at the map one, it couldn't have possibly been closer. It was 250 to 249 in favor of Team Heretics boys. Let's actually watch the end of this. Let's look at the scoreboard first. So Metals had a 1.03, Rancor had a 1.11, and Super had a 1.32. Then on the Optic side, Dash had a 1.21 and Shotzi 1.11.
Last chance. It has to be Super. Otherwise, we're going to see another hard point.
Do you get the tick? Do you get the tick at that old time? Because you at least have one player off the rotation. A big one-on-one. Merkley's loses it.
249. Heretics have the numbers in the hill and a trophy system to keep them safe. Full flood from the front. Do you predict this? Redcore gets the opener. Metals with the follow-up. It's just up to Mercules. He's going to get pushed back. 240, 249.
Last push for Optic. Everyone spawning over towards that P2 side. Hook is going to invest on the route. It might be too long.
He's got to go. He's got to find some contesto from the front. Metals finds the opener. The flank is shut down. Instant classic. It's a 250, 249.
So on the map 2, Rewind S&D, this went 6-5 in the way of the Team Heretics side, behind a strong performance from the new pickup around stage 3 time. Super with a 1.67, and then of course Rancor had a 9 and 7 performance for a 1.29, and Real had a 1.13. On the Optic side, you of course had Hook with a 10 and 8, and Merc with a 12 and 7. So the two new pickups from the team, they tried their very best, but they could not get it done in round 11. Let's check out the Heretics' full comeback.
Maybe that. Optic stacked up. Should understand that the resources are going to be favored in Super, but you're absolutely right. They're going to step right on up. If Super hits the trigger on this Hellstorm, he will get the pings of where everyone is, and yeah, that will push Optic back just a touch, and here come Heretics.
This is going to allow Rancor to take so much space up through the middle of the street. Everyone working over towards B. As Rancor's going to try to trap them on the backside of courtyard.
And it hits.
Super opens up with the opening kill.
Metals. Is he going to commit for the plan?
Metals has the bomb.
We got a long route. Rancor finds another 4v2 situation. Down to Shotzi and Hook for what would be one of the more dramatic comebacks. And Rancor finds another. Just down to Shotzi. Dealt with. No mames. Are you kidding me?
But let's show you guys why it was so impressive that they brought it back. Look at this shit. It was 5-1 in favor of Optic. And the Heretics won 5 straight to make it a 6-5. It was a 5-1 for Optic. That's why I said Shotzi brought this from the depths of hell. This was an insane comeback, bro. I mean, you got to give the Warlord his credit. Having the best KD in this series is very respectable. It means that you were transcendent at some point and you really did a lot to help your team get over that finish line, right? So looking at the map 3, Hacienda Control, where Optic started to bring it back. Hook the Nuke had a 1.21. He had the best standout KD. Obviously, Optic won, so they had the best performance. And then Real had a 1.44. So looking at it, Optic actually got outslayed, but their objective efficiency clearly better, right? Looking at the map 4, Rewind HP, of course, that went 250 to 186 in favor of the Green Wall, further solidifying the comeback. Super had a 1.04. He tried his very best to stave off the comeback, but Shotzi. The Warlord was warlording, baby. He was calling shots and taking pots. You know what I'm saying? All your cash is mine, Heretics. That's what he said to him. I mean, it is what it is. Hook the Nuke, he had a 1.25 right there with his duo. So, yeah, that's how they brought it back in map 4. They chained that map 4 momentum into a explosive map 5 performance from who else but Shotzi and the guy that he did not want to pick up, Mercules. Shotzi had a 14-6, which is absolutely nutty. Mercules had an 11-4. That's how they sent the Miami Heretics, who looked to be the best team at the back half of this year, that wasn't Optic, out. This was definitely a grand finals worthy performance. Surge against Optic, I don't know. Miami Heretics, they hadn't played Optic up to this point in the season. Yeah, see, look at the comments. Best series of the year. But, yeah, I mean, this was definitely the two best teams at the moment going head-to-head. So, you knew this was going to be fireworks. So, looking at our third-place decider match, this one went to a Game 5, Round 11 as well. So many. But Movistar at this point was definitely one of the best teams that we saw. Teams like Faze, LA Thieves, they'd fallen so far out of form that we just had a new game at this point, right? So, you got to tip the fact that KOI was able to go 4-1 on the weekend. and that Heretics was able to go 3-2, right? So looking at it, let's look at the series overview. The series MVP was Mr. Tobias Yule Janssen himself, aka Toby Kleenex, with a 1.01, 101 kills, 100 deaths. Then on the Team Heretics side, you of course have Rancor, Rookie of the Year, as the standout, but not enough. Looking at the Vault Map 1, this of course went 250 to 245 in favor of Movistar. You guys know I don't always react to like videos, but this is a top 3 match, so we're done. So yeah, I'll react to this one. This is an insane like finish to the series. Josie's 41 and 33 for the dub, Abe 33 and 30. Then on the other side, Metals 38 and 34, Rancor 33 and 29, and Super went even. So let's check out how this ended.
Moving over towards P2. Big win from Joe Deceives for that 40 bomb. That may well be the game.
230, 237, 22 seconds on the clock. Inside, over the top of Joe Deceives, keeps him safe. Now turns his attention to the back door. Late lead swap for KOI. Heretics are stacked up, trying to find something from Super on the pitch. Good first blood there for Metals. Joe in some trouble. Here comes the dive into the hard point. 237, 245. Metals catches another double. Heretics are in the hill, and they wipe things from the front, leaving Abe by himself.
One more chance here for the side of Movistar KOI. Can you find a way in? Heretics have to hold.
It's open for now. Heretics still spawning relatively closely. You got to find a way to get in, though, and Rancor will not be able to. Yeah.
On the map 2, dealership S&D, not as much to take away. This clearly was not as close. It was a 6-3 in favor of the Heretics. So yeah, I mean, Joe Steve's 9 and 8, great performance from him. Insight 6 and 6, great performance from him as well. Metals with a 8 and 5 performance. Real with a 9 and 6, and Rancor with a 7 and 5. That was definitely the difference maker, and that's how they got it done. Hossie Control, map 3 in the series, obviously, as always. Control is always map 3. Went the way of the Movistar KOI boys behind a 38 and 27 from Mr. Toby Kleenex himself, and then a 24 and 21 support from his SMG duo Joe Deceives, who also had a positive KD. On the Team Heretics side, the only player with a positive KD was, of course, Rancor, who had a 1.15. Shout out to the Zombies players as well. And then in the map 4, we of course had the Team Heretics boys getting their lick back, getting the momentum back with a 1.44 from Real and a 1.4 from the Rookie of the Year, Rancor, to complement. And then Metals and Super, of course, the AR duo. AR duo. Metals is an AR and Metals is an SMG and Super is an AR. That duo had a 1.27, so great performance in the map 4. Pretty dominant one from Heretics, and that's how they forced a Game 5 where the Movistar KOI boys were able to get a round 11 dub after ripping off 4 straight rounds, going down 5-2 to the Miami Heretics, icing the F up and taking them all the way out, taking their key, taking their souls, all of it. I mean, you go up 5-2 to lose in the round 11. Damn, bruh. Because that's how Heretics, if you guys remember from my last video, they lost at Champs getting double round 11, which is insane. So, yeah, that's an insane way to lose. And to have your year end both times in round 11 losses, like they've literally had 3 elimination series in the last like month that were basically round 11. So they got knocked out of winners bracket with a round 11 loss to Optic or Thieves, somebody. And then in the losers bracket, they got bounced out with a round 11 loss to Surge, I think it was. So yeah, let's look at this. Insight took him out, put him on the table, told everybody to admire. And so did Joe Deceives. Insight with the 13-4, Joe with the 9 and 8. And then on the Team Heretic side, the only player to go close to positive was Rancor. But let's look at the round 11 and see how it got done. After ripping off 4 straight,
it's an $80,000 round of search and destroy.
Started as an $80,000 match, then an $80,000 map. Now it's down to 4 lives on either side. How do we play this out? Heretics on the offense, full flood day. Shots coming through for Kleenex. And now the Hellstorm's called. How do you rotate away from this if you're Heretics?
Do the double doors, and there's somebody watching. This is about Abe. Can he find anything here?
Does this land? Does this connect? Real gets the 10, but he gets isolated. Hellstorm does not land. 3v4 for Heretics. Is there more heartbreak, or is there heroics for it? Abe over the top of Found. The RC comes in late. Oh my goodness! Another massive comeback.
So we are finally getting close to being on out of here, ladies and gents. We are at 1 hour and 26 minutes at time of recording for this video. So this has been a long one. Appreciate everybody who's rocked with me all year. Shout out to all you who leave comments, supportive and loving comments. I appreciate you guys. Yeah. So let's look at this last series of the year, last series of Black Ops 6, the grand finals of EWC, where we had the green wall standing tall after all, and the two events that mattered the most. Yeah, I mean, they had the best year. It has to be said. Like I said in the last video, if LA Thieves or Phase 1, clearly they had the best year, but Optic, they won the same amount of tournaments as everybody else, and they won the two biggest ones. So clearly they had the best. Now, looking at the series overview, 04 was the only player on Surge to go positive. Abuza, I mean, he was frying up until he got to the grand finals, and then it stopped. So looking at the Optic side, of course, the human anti-cheat, Mr. Dashy himself, was the clear MVP for the Optic side in the series with a 1.48. And then Mercules, Merc 30, as some people like to call him. Yeah, I mean, he had a 1.08. So great performance from Merc and Dashy, that duo, cooking in the back half of the year. Let's look at this map 1, Rewind HP. Let's watch it, how it ended after, but let's look at how the actual KD went. So 1.21 from Dashy, 04 with the 1.31, Abuza with the 1.07, and Nasty with the 1.04. So Surge, they had the better KDs in this one, but Optic, obviously their objective efficiency was just better. So looking at this,
close it out. Can we get another big break from Surge? Abuza there with the Jackal. Nasty as well. Onto Shotzi, trying to keep this play going. There's the tags, traded out again, and Surge are good.
Surge are good for now, and a split spawn for Optic might work out, but Neptune reads the spawns. Now you flip the spawns again, 40 seconds. They cannot win it here, but you need every single kill in the feed to keep him away.
Nev looking for his fifth. You're still holding the hard point. Watching out for the next wave. In they come, through the thresholds. It's going to be a two-angle attack right now for Optic. Nasty on one side, two-piece, still holding the front. Last contest, Surge are good.
20 seconds still here, and now Optic need to make a crucial decision. We cannot afford to give up this time. They got to fight their way through P1. They still only need 6 seconds.
Holding on. B2, it's within reach. Dashing Shotzi on theirs. And Nasty now
still do it.
All alone. The game could end here. Nasty's got to move. Fight his way forward. No, it's done. Map 1 complete.
I think when they got this one Optic secured, I think they knew that the grand finals was pretty much done and dusted, because Surge, they're a team who famously tilt, right? Like, they have great compose, but they do tilt. So looking at the map 2, Protocol S&D, I mean, it was 6-1 in favor of the green wall. They need some leg room work to Drake. Dashy 8-1, Hook 6-5, Merc 5-2, and Shotzi 6-5. Excuse me, they fried them. Looking at the map 3, Proto Control, it went 3-1 in favor of Optic, of course, behind who else but Dashy with the 1.29. Merc had a 1.21, and then on the Surge side, you had 04 with the 1.09 and Nasty with the 1.04, as well as Neptune with the 1.04, but clearly not good enough, right? 3-1 loss. Then looking at the Hasi, where Optic was able to close it out, it was 250 to 118. They took out that belt, whooped that ass, and took home the trophy and the lion's share of the bread. So yeah, I'll post a picture of Surge and Optic's winnings on the year. Optic winning the 2 tournaments they did made them the most successful, monetarily speaking, team in Black Ops 6, and Surge were the second most successful because they made so many grand finals. Now, looking at it, Dashy 1.83, Hook 1.26, Merc 1.35, and Shotzi 1.47. They just wanted it more. So let's check out how they went
the trade, and Surge still hold on. It may be fingertips, but their hands are still in.
And now it's Hook on the pinch, already finds an opening. You got the numbers, you gotta fight them.
Man off, pistol up, but the trades are still effective. And what do you know? Optic have found it. That was it. It's done. I don't believe it. Dominance on the grandest stage of the gaming world. Optic are the champions of the Esports World Cup. From champs to the sons of Riyadh, brotherhood prevails.
So yeah, guys, that's how the Esports World Cup went. It was a very fun tournament. Honestly, even though my team got absolutely diddy-bopped out of it, it was a really fun one to watch. Congrats to Optic and the Green Wall. Yeah, I mean, they had clearly the best year out of all the teams in Black Ops 6. So hats off to them. Obviously, they're sticking, but a lot of teams are not. So if you guys are ready, be sure to come back to the next video where I will be going over all of the Roster Mania news. Spoiler, Faze broke up. I hate everything, and I'll see you guys there. Hope you had a great morning, noon, or night, like I always say. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one. If you sat through this whole hour-and-a-half long video, you are an absolute don, and I appreciate you. But yeah, catch you guys on the next one. This is Chris from Fake Sports News X Rotation, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.